we're doing our second Side Project Summers album. We're talking about Head's album that he put out when he quit the band. It's called Save Me From Myself.
Roach Koach
podcast.
It was released on September 9th, 2008.
Wow.
Matt, September of 2008. Okay, obviously you're gearing up to vote in the 2008 election. You are getting over whatever feelings of attraction you have for Sarah Palin. You are also texting everybody going, Tina's got a player on SNL, right?
She must, right?
She's got it, right? That's what we were talking about. Oh, and we're all gearing up. We're all gearing up to go see Kevin Smith's Zack and Miri Make a Porno. That is what's happening in the fall of 2008.
It's a good time.
Good time. Also, Head put this album out.
I will say this. At this point, Head has been in Korn the equivalent amount of time. He was in it from 93 to 2005. So if my new metal math shows me that correctly, that's 12 years, right?
It sounds about right.
And then from 2013 to present, that would also be 12 years.
Amazing. Wow. Perfect symmetry. I love it. I love it. It's like George Lucas says, it's like poetry. It's like poetry.
It's like poetry.
It's like poetry. Matt, did you know about this album in 2008?
Oh, no. Not at all.
Okay. All right. Had you been following at all Head's departure or any of that? Were you aware of it?
No, the David news hit harder than the Head news. And I don't know why that is, but it was maybe because David was always the most...
Matt,
what's he doing in that band?
He was the hottest one. Okay.
He was.
He was the hottest one.
He was the Calvin Klein model.
He was. And so I can tell you, for me, I was obviously very surprised when Head left. And I remember I was still very much engaged with Korn at that point. So I was very surprised when he left. And I was like, what are they going to do? I can't believe this is happening. I remember going to a Borders, because I was a Borders books and music person more than a Barnes & Noble person. And when he put his book out, also called Save Me From Myself, which I have a physical copy here.
Love that.
Pick this up from Half Price Books for $6.99. And I should say the full title is How I Found God, Quit Korn, Kicked Drugs, and Lived to Tell My Story. So I remember picking this book up in a Borders and being like, oh, he wrote a book about all this. Flipping it open to a random page, seeing a typo, and saying, all right, I don't know if I really want to invest in this. Now, I have since obviously purchased this book, and I read it cover to cover.
Now,
yes.
I have to ask,
yeah, man.
Longtime Roach riders may remember when we went to Rockin' Pod.
Yes.
We were supposed to interview Brian Head Welch. We were supposed to have a few minutes with him sitting at our microphone where we could just be aghast and agog over him.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, there was a tragic situation with Jonathan's wife, and she passed, and the band, of course, was there for Jonathan, and he had to withdraw from that interview. I remember pretty succinctly that we were going to be talking about this book with him.
So,
and you and Jenny,
so
maybe.
Okay, so Matt, half right. So what it is that since this book, he wrote 3 more books.
Oh, 3?
One of them is basically a sanitized version of this book, because this book is it's a warts and all situation. Okay, he lays it all out. Okay?
He does not look, from your recollection here, he does not sugarcoat how horrible of a person he is.
He puts it all out there. He really just, this is all the bad stuff I was getting up to in Korn and in my personal life. And from what I could tell, he got some pushback from the religious world that he had entered, and so he decided to make a version of it that remove some of that so that it was like a family-friendly version of the book. Then he wrote another book that I think is more about like life lessons or something like that. Then he wrote another book with Eyes Wide Open that was about him returning to Korn. So Jenny and I decided we were going to read that book because it was more recent. So we started reading it, and both of us would text each other and go, "This book is boring my ass off. Nothing's happening in this book." And it's very true. Nothing was happening in that book. And as I think I've mentioned on the show, maybe I have mentioned on the show, when we got the notification that he was not going to be a rocket pod, I was reading the book and I was so mad that I threw the book across the room. So when you say someone's like, "Has anybody actually thrown a book across the room?" Yeah, I have. I definitely have. And let me tell you, it felt incredible to do. Okay. It felt really good. And also, I love books. I want to stress that too. You can see
You're
me
a
behind
big
me.
reader.
See me right over there. Yeah, all these books. There's books all over. Anyway, I love books. Anyway, so I was very upset that I'd put all this time into reading it. I was only halfway through the book too, by the way, when this happened. I hadn't even finished it. Like Jenny and I were. It was like a real like, "How you doing?" It's like, "How you doing?" You're like, "Are either of us going to get through this book?" And it's not a long book. So when we decided to do this album for the show, I was like, well, let me go back to the original book, the first book. And I could say that this is a much easier read because it is packed with incident. It is still a little repetitious. It still has the no editor, all vibes thing going. It's just that things happen. But there is a level where sometimes I'm like, you could have shortened this.
Mm.
It's not. I would say there's a problem in the newest book. That is, I got up and I walked out of the room. Then I walked back into the room and sat back down. Where I'm like, no, this has got to go. I can't live like this.
This is insane.
In this book, it's more of I think it's more. It works to the book's benefit to show how long it took for Korn to break, and it also is beneficial to show how hard it is to break the throes of addiction and how those things keep coming back. And at first I'm like, oh my gosh, how many times can this guy fall off the wagon? But then I realized that is also the lesson he's trying to impart, that I am falling and falling and falling and falling and falling, but I'll get you back up. And in his case, devoting himself to the teachings of our Lord Jesus Christ. So there is that. I will say that reading this book in comparison to Fieldy's book is very interesting because Fieldy's book, as you might remember, starts off and has many brutal depictions of domestic violence
Yeah.
and other things like that. That Fieldy, for some reason, crafts and then find out what happens next. And you're like, oh, no, sir. No. In this book, he's really laying it all open to let you know I am fully reckoning with every bad thing that I've done. And I want you to know, wherever you are, whatever you have gone through, I have been there. I have rock bottomed. I may have rock bottomed more than anyone's ever rock bottomed. And I got through it. And I am making amends. And I'm going to keep making amends. And I'm going to have to keep doing that work. And it is work every day. And in that way, I appreciated it. But it is this thing where you really think sometimes, do you want to put yourself out there that much? And then ultimately it felt like a bold choice.
It was almost like he didn't want anybody to be like, gotcha. Like,
yeah, you
he
can't.
was kind of like,
He's ungotchable now, I can say, having read this book. Like, you can't gotcha him anymore because it's
right.
all in here.
If you were like, I can't respect you because of what you've done, he would probably be like, I understand.
I get it. Mm-hmm. I will say it is. I would say. I would say that it is, on the one hand, an editor going through it would make it like a real sharp, quick read. But the fact that he wrote it with no apparent ghostwriter or it's very hands off does give it this raw sense of honesty and truth that I was like, every time I cracked it open, I was like, about to get a big heap of honesty here and a big heap of just, because it's also a guy who is really trying to figure it out, who never had the guidance that some of us are lucky enough, blessed enough to have and had in our lives, and how he's like reckoning with it. Now, when he wrote this book, he was out of Korn, and it's very clear that sense coming back and everything that he's done, and the fact that he is still clean and he's still doing this, that he's, I would say it, real motherfucking deal. Like
Yeah.
he really committed. And I can say, without getting too deeply into it, into my own personal life, which is not even close to the level of the shit this guy's going through. But I can tell you that the level of what I would say to him, what I would think reading the book, like, how many times can this guy find methamphetamines hidden somewhere in his house? How much stash does he have? How does this keep happening to this man? But then I think about things that have happened to myself, and it's like getting sucked in and getting going and making mistakes again and again and again. And I'm like, oh, I get it. We're all on a level. It's all on a
Yep.
level. Some people, it's methamphetamines and speed. Other people, it's other things. But it's all relative in there, and we're all
No.
trying to do
It's
the
like,
work.
why do I have more bad food for me always at close at hand
Exactly.
when I'm trying to be healthy?
I can tell you that there's so many parts you will almost want to throw your hands in the air at how many times in this book he'll be like, I threw everything away. And this time I videoed it as proof that I was throwing everything away. And then 6 pages later, I came home and, well, somehow in this drawer, I found some methamphetamine. And I was like, how is this happening? Sometimes he would say, how is this happening? And he'd throw it away. Sometimes he would find it and he'd smoke it. And then he'd be like, how is this happening? And it was just like, but I think what it is that I think they buy so much of it and then they have to hide it in their house, and then they smoke some of it and they forget, and then they buy more. And then later they find it again because they'd forgotten. I think that's an honest take on it.
And then it's I'm hiding it from myself. I'm hiding
Exactly.
it from the other people that are
Yeah.
around me who would do my stuff.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. So there's all of that. He goes through the book, and basically all of his time, his initial time in Korn, he is he's so medicated. He's on so
He's
much drugs.
wasted.
And everybody's on drugs. Everybody's on drugs. And what's interesting is early on in Korn, they're all on speed, but none of them know that the other one's on speed. They're all hiding the fact that they're all on speed from each other. And then one of them says to the other one, how are you getting all this done? And he's like, I'll let you in a little secret. I'm on speed. No shit, I'm on speed. You're on speed? And then everyone found out and they're on speed. And then they were all hyped because then they could all do speed together. But then they all went, oh shit, if we keep doing speed, we're going to die. So then they would all figure out how to get off of speed. And then one person would get on speed again. And then they'd all be on speed again. And it was like a cycle on that. And then they would be like, well, why are we getting all this speed? And it's, oh, this one guy's giving us all the speed. So then this other person, like a manager or something, would come in and be like, yeah, this guy can't drive for you anymore. He's giving you all speed. He's gonna kill everybody. And they were like, you're right. And so they begrudgingly have to get rid of that guy. And that was just the process of it all. And then it's funny is that Jonathan Davis gets clean, as we all know, after
Mhm.
Follow the Leader. And they were all just, oh fuck. What, and then they're all trying to reckon with that.
They're like bummed.
Yeah, they're a little bummed, but also Head says through the book, I'm also like incredibly depressed. I am super depressed all the time because he's like, all the things that I've ever wanted, I have, and I'm getting nothing from it. I feel nothing from it. And then, I mean, he's rock bottom moment that he mentions in the book, and it's in all the news articles that have been posted about this when it came out, was the day before. It was either the day before or the day after Woodstock 99. He punched his wife in the face. Yeah.
Ooh.
And basically it was like, this should be the pinnacle of my life. And instead, here I am, punching my wife in the face, high out of my mind. I feel terrible. Like all of this is bad. And so he like
Phew.
tries to reckon with that. And it's funny is that basically, funny, but he's trying to quit Korn for years. And it's literally a situation of, I just got to get through one more tour, one more this, one more that, and then I can just stop and I can take care of my daughter and I can fix things with my wife and I can make this all work again. But he can't. And it just keeps going. And what's interesting is that when he finally quits, it's literally just, I just had to do it. Like he realized there was never a good time. Because
No.
when he ends up quitting, the band is right before they're supposed to make this big $23 million deal or something for some signing thing. And they're like, you fucked us, you did all this stuff. But I had to, I was going to die. And I think, based on what he says in this book, which I feel is honestly pretty good to the boys in Korn, I would say they come across all like flawed people, but not monsters. And I would say him going back into Korn now is not surprising. That I think they all kind of read this and went, yeah, that's true. You got me. Because it doesn't read salacious in the way that like a tell-all would. I wouldn't
Right.
call this a tell-all.
And it also seems that he's leading with, if there's a number one asshole, I am him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's the thing. Like I said, he lays it out once again of just, he's like, I'm feeling awful. And we're going to get into it in the songs, because the songs on this album,
About I'm feeling awful.
all of this, they're all about this, because he talks about, there I am. And I tell myself, like, I want to be this good father and I want to be this person that people can look up to. And then I get home and I'm like, how soon can I get this kid to bed so I can get high? Like how soon? That's what he's thinking. These are the things he's going through. And he's putting it all out there in the book. And I'd read it and I would just be like, sometimes I'd read it and I'd be like, why are you really putting it out there? And sometimes I'd be like, man, do you need to be this honest with me, a person you do not know? But that's, I guess, the benefit of the book. And I mean, what he's trying to do. Now, what's also interesting, and I want to kind of hit all this on the book before we dive into the album.
Yeah.
Because is that the book also reckons very frankly with how he views salvation and religion.
Yeah.
And all of those things and being saved. And I don't think he would disagree in saying that he came into it with a large sense of, I don't want to call him naive, but maybe naive is the word. And I don't think he'd be wrong. But it's definitely like a lack of understanding, just knowing that he needed something, and that every time he'd ever encountered religion in his life, or someone had told him something very simple, he felt great relief from it. And I kind of jokingly said to you, Matt, the book reads a little bit sometime like, a man will leave Korn and devote himself to Christ rather than go to therapy.
Right.
But it's like, that's what because some of the stuff he talks about in there this reminds me of things that I've definitely talked about with therapists in the past. But the thing is that I think we can say pretty unequivocally, it worked for him.
Right.
Saved his life, saved his relationship with his daughter. It allowed him to eventually return to Korn and still drop some killer ass riffs. So any port in the storm, as far as I'm concerned. But what's interesting is that once he goes into the church and decides that he wants to be baptized and all these things, he's aware that like people are still trying to use him for things. But also he's in a position where I need this support. So I'm going to allow you some level of using me, because I'm going to need what you can give me as a church. But then as he goes around, because then he wants to know more. At one point, he finds a church that only speaks in tongues, and he's fascinated. He's, tell me more. This is amazing. He goes into all these things so open-minded, more open-minded than I could ever imagine myself being. And once again, you could say he's telling you this stuff because he wants to be honest. He's telling you this stuff because he's dumb. You can take either way. Mm-hmm. And he might honestly say, you can look at it both ways either, because he's so open.
He might be like, I am a little dumb. And
I'm a little dumb. Yeah.
I never denied it.
Yeah. I've also written some of the greatest riffs of all time. So take it or leave it. Some things, there's a price to pay for genius.
If it's a D&D stat sheet, I put 10 points into killer riffs.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can guess what suffered.
Exactly. Points get removed somewhere else. But yeah, but he goes to this church that is all about speaking in tongues, and this is great. This is kind of amazing. It feels advanced to me. It feels like advanced because that's the thing. I want to get as deep in. I want 100% religion. I want 100% God or something like that. So he goes back to the church he's been in. I found this amazing church. They speak all in tongues. And the guy's, yeah, not a big fan about that. Not thrilled. And he's like, wait, what's your problem? And that's when I realized you got all these different churches. They've all got their own sets of rules, how they want to worship. And he's okay, I respect it. I get it. But then at a certain point, he gets kind of frustrated. And he's kind of also, I know what I want to get from a relationship with God and relationship with the teachings of the Bible and all of that. But also, I don't feel like I need to do it in a building. And I don't feel like I necessarily have to be there every Sunday. I feel like I can make it anywhere, anytime. And I need it. If I need it right now, if I have to drop to my knees and pray right now, then that's what I'm going to need. I'm going to get that. I don't have to wait for 10 o'clock on a Sunday. I don't have to do it. Yeah. And that is something that comes up in one of the songs too. And that was honestly one of the most surprising parts of it was him saying, at a certain point, I was done with that structure, but I was still devoted. Because I said, are we going to get another backslide? Are we going to find their stash underneath the piano or something?
You'll never believe it. And I found more methamphetamine.
I found more methamphetamine. I mean, listen, he's finding it. He keeps finding it. And so, yeah. And so he basically, as the book is like closing, he's like sort of like, I'm still devoted to this. I'm devoted to saving people if they want to be saved. I'm devoted to talking about my journey. But also, I don't need to be tied to some church. I don't need to be tied to some building. I believe it is bigger than buildings, and I believe it is bigger than these things. And I was like, well, look at that. Look at that. So, yeah. Now, he does get vague near the end when he talks about how he was running out of money and he didn't know what to do about money. And everyone's like, well, God provides. The Lord provides. And then I was just like, where? When? And then it literally goes, and then he did. End of chapter. And I was like, how? What? Explain that. How did he provide? Did you find a bag of money somewhere? Like, what happened? So that is left a little.
Then I made a call to my manager and I said, do I have writing credits that I've been getting paid for that I haven't checked up on?
That's the funny thing is that he gave all that stuff away.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, he threw some money away. There's a lot of willy-nilly throwing money away that sometimes just makes me go, what? Yeah. Another fun detail was, as we know, in Korn, this is kind of separate from all the other stuff, because he goes into the origins of Korn and the origins of how long it took for Korn to get started. And he talks about how they made the drive from Bakersfield to LA a bunch. Like they would go and be like, you gotta get out to LA. We're gonna make it happen. And they go out there and it wouldn't happen. And then they go back to Bakersfield. And then somebody be like, oh, no, we got a new band. You got to come out. And they drive back out. And then it wouldn't happen. And then he went back to Bakersfield. And I want to say it happened more times. And I remember thinking, like, this is getting repetitious. I feel like there's a tighter way to tell this story. But once again, it really let me know the grind of what Korn went through. And also how long it took to, like, really get the pieces in place of, okay, this lead singer, he's got to go. Hey, Jonathan Davis, let's get it going. Who once again,
so it took 5 failed attempts before LAPD happened,
right?
And then Jonathan just happened to be in the art.
He was
band,
in Sex Art,
Sex Art, and it was just like, it is like ships passing in the night. Like, how did this happen? And it's just like we were just working our fucking faces off, and then he opened up, and he wasn't even going to do anything anymore, and he just like The Cure, and it was like, here we are.
Yeah, it went back and forth, and then it comes together. Now, what's fun is that, as we know, Head is his nickname, which he got because he had a giant head. It was an insult. It was an insult that kids told him when he was a little kid, which is also kind of one of those things that sort of is there, and that's kind of adds to a level of like childhood trauma that now you're like nickname on a level of fame is something that someone gave you
used to make fun of
you for. Yeah, but then they decided, they were like, we need to all have nicknames. And so they're like, Monkey, we know Monkey, we do Monkey, yeah, because I guess his Monkeys was based off his feet. And then Fieldy's like this long, complicated thing, Garfield, and a whole other thing.
Yes.
And they were like, we tried a bunch of other names for Jonathan, but yeah, he's just Jonathan. We couldn't do anything about that. And David, he doesn't quite say it, but basically it's like David was too hot to give a nickname to. It was just, we had to call him David. You couldn't.
David was unnicknameable.
Unnicknameable. So that was the thing. So that's why only three-fifths of the band have nicknames, because they just couldn't make anything stick with Jonathan Davis or David. So I thought that was a very funny, charming story. So I would say, if you are interested in really getting the nitty grit, I would recommend this book for that. He also does go through in depth about how he wrote the songs for the album, which we'll get into. This album, Matt.
Yeah, buddy.
Genre tags: Christian metal, alternative metal, new metal.
Get to the boards.
Producer on this record, Brian Head Welch and Steve Delaportas.
Oh, okay. We've seen Steve before.
We have. All tracks written and recorded by one, Brian Head Welch.
Love it.
He did vocals, lead and rhythm guitar, synthesizers, programming, and production.
One-man show.
Archie J. Muse Jr. did some rhythm guitar. Trevor Dunn, bass guitar. Tony Levin, also on bass guitar. On drums, a man who's been in the news of late, one Josh Freese. Josh Freese, as you may know, recently fired from the Foo Fighters without cause, no reason given beyond we're going in a different direction. Josh Freese, long time. He was the when you need a drummer,
yep,
you call up Josh. He's dependable hand. I would say I know him best from a little band called The Perfect Circle.
It's true.
Played on those records. That's him. That's him clipping away on Judith, baby.
I know.
That snare. That's Josh. So I've been a Josh Freese fan for a long time. Let's just run down this. Okay. On top of playing on A Perfect Circle, on top of playing in the Foo Fighters, and on top of playing on this album, Nine Inch Nails.
Yep. That's where I know him from.
I know. Once you're in, I think we talked about this once off mic, or maybe we did talk about it, that Nine Inch Nails, the Nine Inch Nails umbrella was such a mark of quality for me that anybody who had anything to do with it, I was like, oh, well, this has got to be at least pretty good, because this guy played on the Downward Spiral, or this guy was a touring guitarist for Nine Inch Nails. Yeah. Like, honestly, Robin Fink, if somebody told me, like, Robin Fink played on this, great. He fucking played Nine Inch Nails. He's an all-timer. He's amazing. Yeah. But yeah, I think about Aaron North, who was the guitarist in Icarus Line, and then he got recruited up to play in Nine Inch Nails, and his story is kind of weirdly tragic, and things did not always work out for him. But I mean, when he got picked to leave the Icarus Line to join Nine Inch Nails, I remember thinking, this guy is more legit than I ever fucking imagined. He got the cosign of cosigns. So Josh Freese, so I was very surprised when I saw that he was the drummer on this. I was like, hey, there we go. But this is largely one-man show. When you read in the book that he was just the music was just flowing out of him. He couldn't stop himself.
Well, I love that you're like, he said that he didn't know how to get money, and then God took care of that. It's like you're holding where the money came from.
Right.
It's like he got a fucking advance for this book.
He had to have gotten an advance for the book. Maybe that's what it was. So yeah. So not only do I have the book, I do also have a physical copy of this album.
This cover is wild.
Matt, describe us your feelings on this album cover.
So it takes a lot of perception to really see what's going on here, because our boy Head looks like half a man in a man's lap.
It always has looked to me like it's supposed to be him being cradled by, I think, what's supposed to be what we're supposed to think of as like the Holy Spirit or something like that. But whenever I would see this in passing, it looks like sometimes it looks like his head's cut off and it's bleeding from the eyeball.
Yes. Yes, that's
But
exactly what I see.
but then other times I'm looking at it and we see this arm here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, that is sort of clutching him, okay? And then this is his tattooed arm here.
Yes.
But then this thing here, this sort of
Right.
ropey thing,
This weird leggy.
which I look at that and my first thought is that guy from Star Wars that works for Jabba the Hutt who's got like a flesh ponytail. You know what I'm talking
Yes.
about? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's at the Sarlacc pit, I'm pretty sure. I think that that's what that looks like. Is this a flesh ponytail or something? I don't know what to make of this thing. Either way, it's honestly a pretty stark cover, really lays it all out. I noticed that as much that this font here is definitely Korn adjacent
Mm-hmm.
in the way that it looks, but it feels very blunt. Head is also rocking some very tight braids
Yes.
in the album art here. He has said, and recently he was posting on his Instagram about it, that I'd been figuring out my life, but I certainly hadn't figured out my hair. And I was like, I like that. I like that. So yeah, so he's got this sort of tight thing. He's very covered in tattoos, which he says in the book, he had not had that many tattoos prior to this happening. And then once he felt that he was saved, or once he figured things out, he realized that he needed to cover his body in the scripture and in other things like that. And so he has a lot of religious tattoos all over his body. Now he also has lyrics, and he also has song titles from this. But he also does have on his right arm Issues,
Yes.
the Korn album. So yeah, the CD itself has a picture of him when he was passed out backstage to just show the level of how much he was in it. And then above it is an angel, I guess, to show his salvation as well there.
Yep.
So, he's really laying it all out there. The thank yous are all pretty straightforward. Thank you to my Messiah for saving me from myself. You are the message and testimony of my life. Without you, I believe I would be dead for sure. There he goes, And then he thanks his daughter, and he also thanks her hamster, Cody. He thanks his mom and dad.
Rest in peace, Coded, because
Yeah,
there's
Cody-
no way you're still alive.
Cody is definitely dead. Well, then he also thanks Sam and your dog Perry.
Rest in peace, Perry.
Rest in peace, Perry. Thanks all of his relatives. Thanks his friends, and he also thanks all the boys in Korn.
That's
Monkey,
good.
Fieldy, Jonathan, and David, plus all the Korn fans, friends, managers, and crew. This album wouldn't exist if it wasn't for our time together. I love you all very much. And yeah, he puts it all out there. And then he also says at the end, he thanks all these people. And if I forgot anyone, give me a break. I've been pretty much a one-man band for 3 years. Yee-haw. And then we have the only picture he has with an instrument is him with a double guitar in the liner notes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot of strings. That's a lot of strings. More strings than I could possibly count.
I mean, does that lead to this album signature sound?
We'll find out. Oh, I know people want to ask. I got this from Second and Charles for sweet $5.
Nice.
And most importantly, because people want to know, I bought it in the summer of 2016. That's how long I've had this thing in the collection, waiting to pull the trigger for a side project summer.
Have side project summers yet?
We did,
and you just knew.
I just knew. Listen, the moment that we started the show, I was like, I gotta get these physical copies.
It's gonna go 9 years, and I'm gonna need a physical copy of this.
Absolutely.
Oh, you want to hear a song?
You know what,
about
Matt?
40 minutes into this?
Let's do it. Yes, the first song on this album is called Love.
Since this is the very first time I'm hearing this, I have to say, I am pleasantly surprised. Obviously, it sounds Korn adjacent. Doesn't necessarily sound like Korn, but
right.
But it very much is okay. Yep. he was absolutely in that band, and vocally he is doing the right moves. He's
Yes.
just, I'm going to do a whisper thing. It's going to be layered. There's going to be a little bit of effects on it. And that's all I got to do. Smart moves.
Smart.
Right move.
Right. Now, what's interesting is that he was very insecure about his vocals when recording. And he talks about that even when he was in the studio, and he's the guy who's like foot in the bill, these people work for him, he still felt unsure and he felt embarrassed and he would lash out at people. And he said that was a thing, was that also through all this, learning to control his anger, controlling that. And he said that making this record was like a lesson and also like patience and
Had to be.
understanding, because I lashed out at these people because I didn't know what I was doing and I was afraid and I had to trust myself. And I don't think this album was recorded sequentially, but it feels as it goes along that he becomes more confident. I've listened to the album 3 times, and that's my feeling, is I feel like the vocals get more confident as it goes along. But yeah, when I put this on, honestly, I did 3 listens, and I Kreisgau challenged this. Side note, we were aware Robert Kreisgau's website did go down for a little bit. It's back up. He's got it working. It's all right. But I did the Kreisgau challenge on this, and I will tell you that on the first listen, speakers didn't hit. And I did play the CD on my CD player, did not hit. It felt very long. It felt very flat. Didn't work. Second listen, headphone listen on a walk. And I got to tell you, when he's just in your ears and all you got is the road in front of you as you're taking a nice long walk, it hits.
It hits.
Works. It works because
Yeah.
I'm more focused in on what he's saying, and it works much better. Much, much better. I wrote in my notes that the opening chimes felt very falling away from me. Like many songs in this album, it's about Head's battles with addiction, but also his journey of conversion. I don't know why it's almost 6 minutes long, or it's 6 minutes long, but that's most of the songs in this album are all pretty long. Some of them have the intros to the next song
baked into
the end. So the intro to Flush is baked into the end of this. But we'll get to that in a moment. I did want to talk about a little website called songmeanings.com.
Oh, I love it. Did they show up for this?
They showed up a little bit. I wouldn't say that they were super strong, but every song had comments. So credit where it's due. Greylander, October 15th, 2008, at 8 o'clock, almost 9 o'clock in the evening, said, it looks like Brian's opinion on how God saved him. In the first verse, it talks about how God gave him pain so he would end up coming to him. One of my favorite songs on the album. But then he also asks, a few days later at 5:57 in the morning, what does the LOV stand for? It's written like initials. Now that was on, like I said, October 18th, 2008. On April 28th, 2014, at 3:26 in the morning,
Been up.
Shy JDM said, great question. I don't know either. Maybe something like Life of Vulnerable Extremities. I love it. I love
Life of Vulnerable Extremities.
Listen, I don't know, but I'm going to pull something out of my ass real quick for you here these many years later.
Hey, here's a guess that's not right. What do you think about that?
Life of Vulnerable Extremities? That sound like anything? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't fucking know. So the song ends with the intro to Flush, which we're going to get to, in which you hear someone pretty vividly throw up into a toilet. And then the song starts.
Oh, well, I'm glad we're missing that.
Yes.
Yeah, let's just go there now.
I'm all sucked up. I think I'll sleep off.
Matt, before I get to myself, I want to know your thoughts on Flush.
Look, man, listening to that and hearing it, it felt, oh, this is where Death Clock got all of this stuff from. Nearly cartoonish in the way that it presents what I'm sure was an absolutely fucking miserable experience for him.
Mm-hmm.
But the song, it's hard to put that part into a song and not have it sound a little comedic. It just is kind of just like throwing up and
Yeah,
losing my lunch
yeah,
and
yeah.
you,
That is the funny thing about it, is that he is speaking about something like he talks about in the book a bunch about how sick he would get before shows, after
just
shows,
retching
retching, throwing
constantly.
all the time. Yes, just really messing himself up from being on drugs and
Because that
everything like
shit's
that.
so hard on your stomach too.
Exactly. And so he was like, I want to speak incredibly frankly about this experience and I want to work it into a song. And the thing is that across the board, there are so many parts of this song that I'm just like, why would I want to listen to someone throw up into a toilet? And listen, if you're gonna do like a
Right.
secret track, like Ash 1977 or some shit, that's one thing. But making it the beginning of track 2 on your album, I gotta listen to this guy throw up and also it's at the end of the song too, so it's like bookends it. And then also to then be so bluntly, I wrote down the lyric though: "Flush all the puke I'm throwing up in the toilet. This sucks." Like he just wants to really just lay it all out there of just how bad it was. And I think it was, once again, you can look at it either way. He's naive, he's dumb, or he's thinking, I don't want anything to be missed in subtext. I want it to be as clear as
Right.
possible how bad things were for me.
Yeah, this is I think that's the hard part as an outsider coming in
Mhm.
is that this isn't nuance.
Right.
This is just grim reality.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when you put it in a song, it starts to sound like it does sound a little detached, I guess. But detached is a nice way of saying it just sounds comedic.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sounds like, partying's tough. Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
like if you don't know that this is his redemption arc,
Mhm.
this is just like doing heroin on a bus at 3 a.m.'s not for everybody.
No, it's not. It's not. Well, the third verse of the song is all
Crystal meth.
heroin, all that. Yeah, in the third verse, he talks about how all these people have their lives ruined by substances. And it's one of those things where it's this person did this and it went badly for them, and this person did heroin and it went badly for them. And I wrote in my notes, I was like, based on his book, he's an expert, can't disagree. I mean, he knows.
Right.
He knows. He knows how bad it can get. And like I said, it ends with a toilet flush.
I've never disagreed with that song. These are people who have died. Like I've been like, it seems that this is a first-hand account.
Yes. Yeah, it is. Songmeanings.com definitely showed up for this song. Adam 3990 on September 24th, 2008 at 5:15 in the morning responded to someone who had asked, oh, I'm sorry, I missed one here. Here we go. Sorry. Let me back that up.
Sure.
First, we have a comment from Love X Hate X Burn. They posted this on September 19th, 2008 at 8 o'clock in the evening. To me, this song is about people becoming sick of being an alcoholic, drug addict, and wanting to become sober. Pretty standard, makes sense to me. Cadillac Kincaid responded to this on September 23rd at 2008 at 5:27 in the morning and said,
"Been up? You think that's been up?"
Matt, I'm going to read you this comment. You tell me if they've been up. Yes, obviously it is about wanting to break addiction! Exclamation point. The music video is interesting though. ... I don't get it? Question mark! Exclamation point. Any insight? Question mark! Exclamation point.
Been up.
Been up. So then, Adam 3990 on September 24th, 2008 at 5:15 in the morning says, Cadillac, I co-host a Christian metal radio show, and we had Brian in the studio this past Sunday to talk about the album and life and such. Off air, we were discussing the video, and if I can recall, parentheses, someone else in the studio was asking me a question, so I only half heard what Brian was saying, end parentheses. But he was mentioning that the red powder represents drugs and addiction. The people in the video show the sex appeal of drugs and drinking. However, at the end, Everyone starts vomiting up tar, showing the dangers, physical and emotional, the drug's effect. This is a very unclear description that I just gave, and I wish that I had heard more clearly what Brian was saying about it, because I wasn't entirely sure of the meaning myself. I hope this helps a little bit. This is an all-timer song meanings response. Hey, does anyone know what's going on in this music video? Oh, friend, I do. I was with the maker of the video, except I was across the room talking to someone else about work and missed everything that he said. But based on what I was half listening to, this is my best bet. Incredible.
Why don't you re-listen to the show before reporting it?
Amazing work. This is like saying, listen, I was in the warehouse where they put the Ark of the Covenant, but I turned around for a second. I didn't see what aisle the forklift went down. I can't tell you where they put
And then
it.
everything was on fire. What do you want
I
from me?
I couldn't find it. Amazing. Loved it. So I read this and I'm like, I gotta watch this music video. Let me tell you, you take the boy out of Korn. You can't
Take the corn out of the boy.
You can't take the corn out of the boy. All right. Starts and ends with testimonials from former addicts about how bad things were, their rock bottom, and ultimately how they got over out of it. That's very nice. Those two parts fit with the book, fits with so much. Then we see Head in a straitjacket and chained up, singing the song. Eventually, he frees himself to rock out. Well done. Perfect. This is intercut with some scantily clad hotties licking red powder off of each other and writhing around. And eventually, black goo or tar starts coming out of their mouths. Then at one point, they're in black body bags, but then it goes in reverse. The goo goes back into their mouths, as if to say, oh, this is how bad it could get. I want to tell you, these hotties are hot. Okay, these are unequivocally hot hotties who are licking red powder off of their scantily clad bodies for a long time. Okay, long time. And then they start having black tar drip out of their mouths, and they're still pretty hot. And I guess there was some controversy about this. Some people were not thrilled with this video in the religious world he'd been in. Once again, the boy was in Korn. He can't. It seemed like he was like, well, yeah. And then we have the hotties come in, and they'll just show the ups and downs of it. Don't do it. But I mean, they are writhing. Honestly, I watched this video and I was like, Clown saw this and went, I can have
No notes.
I can have hotties show up at my buddy's funeral, no problem. Like this is what are we worried about here? Incredible work. I could not believe how hot these women were in this video. I did not. I was like, Head, he went through this thing and now he's religious and he's like, listen, I might be devoting myself to our Lord Jesus Christ, but hotties only. Okay,
Look, the Lord did not remove the taste of titties from my mouth.
So a pretty incredible video, and check it out over on Matt's favorite website, youtube.com.
Love that site.
Great site. All right, up next we've got Loyalty.
It's me, everyone's favorite. No way, I won't sell out.
He's not a bad vocalist.
He's not a bad vocalist, and this is an interesting one because based on this first verse and based on stuff that I'd read in the book, one of the other things that he had an issue with near the end of his time in Korn is that he wasn't really thrilled with the direction that the band was going in conceptually. They had just released their Greatest Hits Volume 1, and they'd done the cover of Word Up, which he was not thrilled about, and they did the music video for Word Up, which everyone's faces were superimposed on dogs, and he hated this idea. And he said that everyone else kind of hated it too. And then when the video came out, they were like, oh, we really hate this. So he was already kind of like, I don't like this. And I guess they were already in the early stages of See You on the Other Side. And the idea had been thrown out, let's work with outside songwriters. And Head was not down for it. He was not feeling that he said, I mean, obviously he's dealing with all these other addiction issues, but also he's this part. I don't see why we want to do this. And it seemed to me, and he doesn't dive too into it, but it does feel like he had in his mind an idea of what is like the sort of the sellout thing of whatever that could be. But it's funny is like at this point, Korn's what? They're on South Park. They're they're million
I mean,
sellers.
yeah,
They're the one of the biggest bands. And so it's what is the line where you're sort of like, now we're betraying our our whatever it is, our artistic integrity by doing blank. Do you know what I mean?
right.
And it seemed like that video he didn't like, this idea that we're going to use outside writers he wasn't thrilled with. And which is funny though, because since he's been back in Korn, I mean, they are using outside writers. Billy Corgan did some co-writes on The Nothing. They still use one of the people from the Matrix on the Matrix production team on some of this stuff. So I mean, he's made peace with that, you know. But he was not on board with it. So the first part of the song seems to be like his concerns with the integrity of Korn. That's how you take the first verse. But then you may have noticed the looping baby sound effect.
Yes.
So in the second verse, it gets into being an anti-abortion song. Just, I don't know, just like, oh, okay. So then that you've got that angle. Okay. And I wrote in my notes that, that it's an anti-abortion song that's also about quitting Korn, but also there's like this level of like self-awareness about, he questions what he wants to do, because he also questions, he's okay, I'm mad at their integrity. That's how this is a messy song, because it's like, Korn, what are you doing? I don't agree with this direction. Don't have an abortion. Also, I've quit Korn now. What do I do next? What's my plan? Do I have a plan? I don't have a plan. I'm also kind of aimless. And
I kill my baby?
Yeah, I get, maybe that's what he's going for. I don't know, but it was one of those things where I was like, I love that he was like, I'm gonna shove it all in here. I'm making an anti-abortion song. That also I'm also gonna make it about my choices in leaving Korn. And it's very strange, because he also talks about how he doesn't agree with abortion, but also we've given, like, the Lord has given the world free will, and we have to let people make the decisions that they make. And I'm like, okay, but also, which is it? Are you gonna settle down on anything? So you're dealing with a lot. Yeah, if you're gonna settle on anything, you just settle back on that. There's, of course, some cool guitar shit at 255, which you would expect it's had from Korn. I should mention, review-wise, good reviews.
I mean, for an album that shows up in Christian rock, this is the least Christian rock. From the, I know Dan Terry. I know Dan. Don't worry. But like from a mainstream Christian rock standpoint, which Korn would probably, Brian Head Welch from Korn made a Christian record. That would be the view I'm taking on it. This is like bodies nearly everything.
Right. So yeah, just to run it down, about.com, 3.5 stars out of 5. All Music, 3 out of 5. Artist Direct, 3 out of 5. Christianity Today, 3.5 out of 5. Cross Rhythms, 8 out of 10. Jesus Freak Hideout, 4.5 out of 5. Thrash Hits, 3.5 out of 6. 6 Thrash Hits. Fix your star rating scale. That's a weird scale. Weird scale. 6? Who rates on a scale of 6 Thrash Hits? I don't even know what to do with that.
I don't like that.
Yeah, all right. And then Kerrang, a rare dissenter, with a 2 out of 5.
Hey, yeah. Kerrang's got a Kerrang. They were too busy.
They gotta.
They were too busy conducting interviews with Slipknot.
They were like, listen, hold on. What does Corey Taylor think of this album? Get him on the horn.
I need a track-by-track breakdown from Corey Taylor.
Exactly. Now, what's funny is that there was one review that said, let me find it here. Oh, the Christianity Today review said the content is so much more positive than anything Korn released that I can look past the absence of hooks to find a great deal of hope. And I thought that was interesting, because it felt to me, this album felt like it had a lot of hooks. Like, it felt like it really showed me to what level Head's involvement in Korn's signature sound and general sound was, that he knows how to write a song. He knows how to write a pop song.
I think that was what was hitting me, is like, even though the subject matter is dour to uplifting in the same breath, there is choruses. There is absolutely straight ahead songcraft in here. So
Yeah.
I never felt like so far that I haven't been taken care of in a song.
Yeah.
The messaging might be all over the shop,
Mhm.
but the songcraft is absolutely there.
Yeah. I would say the songs are all too long though. Like like I said, they're all like 5 minutes long or longer.
Yeah,
So
that there's another 6 minutes of loyalty is no, there's not. There shouldn't be.
and yet there is, Matt, and yet there is. Yeah, yeah. Loyalty clocks in at 5 minutes and 7 seconds. Actually, Flush is the shortest song at 4.5 minutes. So just keep that in mind.
That's why they had to make the video.
That's right. They're the only one. Yeah, wheeling the hotties. All right. Up next, we have Rebel.
All right.
So this one, on my second listen, I was like, this dude, this is a true no notes album, because you can tell no one was going in going, maybe don't do that. He literally was like, this song, all the verses sung by children's choir, the entire verse, children's choir. Anybody else, you ran this idea in a Korn album, they'd be like, maybe like a line, maybe the beginning,
Right, a few seconds.
a few seconds,
maybe.
but then Jonathan Davis would sing the rest of the song, and he's like, I'm only in at the chorus. I'm gonna make it super stark because this is about the kids. And so in the book, because I have the chapter here where he talks about the origins of this song, he talks about how I'll start here. He says this is also when he's praying in tongues a lot. Also, it was around this time, and that the songs would just come out of him. He says, and he was having a conversation with his friend Lisa. We were talking on the phone, and she was in the process of explaining how she knew of a child who had a lot of problems, and these problems were the parents' fault. Apparently, they were kind of mean to the kid. They drank all the time, just didn't care of didn't take care of their child as they should have. Sort of how I used to be. During our conversation, Lisa told me how it would be cool to write a song about kids rebelling against the negative things going on in their lives and running to God so that he could bring healing into their lives like he did for me. After our conversation ended, I didn't think anything else of it until about 20 minutes later when I heard this music in my head. It was heavy music. And then I heard the screaming words of the chorus, rebel, rebel. Your parents have failed you, and I'm here to tell you, rebel, rebel. The world has abused you, and I'm here to choose you. Needless to say, I named the song Rebel.
Yep.
Yep. And I wasn't even trying to write a song. It just came to me so fast out of the blue. After I thought about it, there was no doubt in my mind that it was from God. There it is. A lot of that in the book. Something happens, and it's like, I got a killer chorus for you, baby. I got a killer chorus. Here you go. Straight from God. So this one also, I like this. I like this for one, because it's kind of nuts. But also is that it sounds to me like he's saying, listen, the old ways have failed you. These people have failed you. The church has failed you in a way. You need to find your own way. Not something you would generally expect to find. Not the thing that we really find when we've dealt with bands in the past that we've got to, go to the boards of Dan Terry and go, what's, this Christian
Right.
band? It generally is praise and worship without any critiques of the systematic setup of the religion, And Heads, just got here and I got some feelings. I don't know how I feel about all this. I need to be saved and I'm taking that. But also, I don't know, we're running things here. I got some notes. And also I think he knows from a point of privilege of his fame that he's going to get more airtime than just some rando off the street.
I would, yep.
Yeah.
Hey, when the spirit drives you to write that song, don't rebel. Rebel against not having kids on every chorus.
I mean, I would say this one was pretty good because by having the kids do the verses, the chorus hits way harder. It's just, oh boy. There is an actual chorus at 2:30 with a bridge of sorts, and then an adult choir comes in at 4 minutes because this song long as hell, baby.
Oh, it's long.
Songmeanings.com, The Second Man, posted on October 30th, 2008. at 2:32 in the morning. I really like his use of the perspective of Christ. He does it in a way that is totally different from anything you'd hear anywhere else. It's refreshing. No disagreement there. K Deftones 23, September 24th, 2015, 3:03 in the morning. Everyone's posting way too early in the morning. Brian uses the kids to have it in somebody's perspective. All the bad things happening in the kids' lives. The end verse is God talking to them that they are not alone and that he will power you through all the pain. Really cool and neat song, Head. I like at the end they were like, Head's gonna read this. Up next we got Home.
Pretty good.
Once
That
again,
song works. That song really works.
really works. Now here's the twist on it. There's a twist. He wrote this song initially for 50 Cent. Indeed. He wrote the song for 50 Cent. And there's a lyric in there about having a cheap name. And that he says, the wisdom comes through suffering. Tell me why you'd let him give you a cheap name. It's time to come home. Playtime's over now. And he also mentions, you're nowhere near the teachings of Martin Luther King. Did you forget all about his dream? That line, I was like, yeah. But it's come up in some interviews and stuff that he did around this where they were like, did you send this to 50 Cent? I sent it to him. I didn't hear anything from him. And I'm like, I'm not surprised, quite honestly.
Yeah, that is a total who?
Yeah. So, yeah. But this one, I mean, I'm glad he kept it for himself. It pretty much works. It's almost 7 minutes long. It ends with his daughter singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Cute. But yeah, once again, once again, he's just showing what he can do, proof of concept. I believe when he eventually, takes this and turns it into Love and Death, things get a little tighter. Things get a little more streamlined. So yeah, but yeah, I didn't mind this one. It definitely, once again, when you're on headphones on a walk, it definitely works.
I like that.
All right. We have the title track, Save Me From Myself.
Which way will I go? I say
Oh, we got to get to the chorus, Matt.
it.
I got to tell you, this is the best chorus on the album. He brings it home there for me. And I mean, once again, though, we're in it. It's a one-track album in the way that it is about one thing, but it is very much about that one thing in a much more detailed way than you would normally expect.
Yes. Yeah, this song completely works.
Mm-hmm.
There is not a I don't know what else to say. It's he knows how to write a song. Like,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
loved. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. And it really does work. And the chorus, when the chorus hits, I was like, man, this chorus, I got to tell you, yeah, once again, when you're on that walk and you're just listening to this guy throw it all, I mean, obviously in Flush, he's throwing it all up. He's literally just, I am not going to stop myself from being honest here and really just laying it all out there of like how rock bottom I was, you know? And really being honest about the rock bottomness of it all. And that's the only way, and he says in the book, I have to tell you about all this just to show why I'm where I'm at now.
Right.
That's the thing. When you get to the end of the book, you're like, I get it. I understand how he ended up where he is, because wow, he went through so much. He put himself through so much. Yeah, so this one, I think this is probably my favorite song on the album. Definitely chorus-wise, favorite chorus on the album. All right, up next, Die, Religion, Die.
Slow down. Slow down. Die, religion, die. I'm sick of all your rules. There's too many.
Matt, this guy, listen, all he's asking is to be saved, to just free himself of this addiction, free himself of this guilt, of all these things. And then you're coming up to him and you're like, you can't, in church, you technically can't do that. You can't speak in tongues. We don't do that here. You can't.
Yeah, we are not a charismatic church.
We're not the type of church. We don't do these other type of things. And the 5 o'clock mass is more about this. But if you want to go to the 8 o'clock mass, and he's get these rules.
At
I'm
no
like,
point should we have hotties licking red stuff off of each other.
I'm sick of all your rules. They're so man-made. Who said that? Did God say it or did some fucking guy? I am not here for some fucking guy. I'm here for God. If he didn't say it, I don't want to hear it. Don't tell me
About your rules.
your rules. And I think that means that all religion should die. We can do whatever we want. So yeah, when I heard this one, I was like, it was funny is that if you haven't read the book and you were just listening to this and this came up, you'd be like, excuse me? wait, what?
What,
But when you read the book,
where's this coming
when
from?
you read the book and you realize that really it's just him basically being like, I don't like everybody telling me all the rules of religion. Well, the rules. I'm not interested in that. Let me just be saved. Why do I gotta do all this other shit? Like, what are you talking about? It's very refreshing. I wrote in my notes. Oh yeah, I wrote the lyric down. My church is not inside your building walls. On Sundays you all hide while the world just falls. Now go into the world and destroy hell. You have the authority. Use it for the kill. And do not be afraid. Religion is man-made. Everything is okay. The rules have just been changed. Basically just saying, listen, we can enact change. I mean, this is also, I think, him saying there are things in the church that are keeping you in the past and the world. And if you want to know why people are reluctant to join the church, it's because you're stuck in the past with your old rules that were made up by men, not our Lord. And you need to get your head out of your ass and out in them streets helping people. That's the other thing. He's all about helping people. All he wants to do is help people. And that comes across.
I like it.
Yeah. And then at the end, he does a JD level die religion section that goes into a speak and spell creepy voice.
Perfect.
Yes. For those at home who want to know, this song is 5.5 minutes long. All right. Up next, we have. Oh, wait. Are there song meanings comments? Oh, there are some song meanings comments. Let's see. They're basically people just agreeing with this. Oh, I like this one. This is from Ken Sai, 1985. Posted this on March 17th, 2009 at almost 10 o'clock in the evening. You see, God is like the moon, and religion is like a sign pointing to it. But the sign was built so big that it obstructs our view. We aren't supposed to look at the sign, but the moon. But so many of us are staring at the sign. The outside world thinks that the sign is our God and not the moon it points to. Thus, the song is about tearing down the sign and let the moon be the sign. I was like, okay, all right.
I like that.
Aragon on March 9th, 2012 at 2:16 in the morning. This motherfucker been up.
Been up.
He said, Lauren, Matt, how do you guys know he's been up? His comment, nice.
Check the toilet. Check that toilet.
Oh, he did. He just did.
Nice.
Nice. Now he did then a few minutes later find more to say because Cadillac Kincaid left a comment on September 23rd, 2008 at 5:19 in the morning and said, I have felt the same way for so long. I hate religion, but I love Christ. I go to church occasionally, but there is so much more to it than that. I hate churches today. They try to push their own agenda without using scriptures in the right context. It's all about money, drawing a crowd, and a social gathering anymore. I like that. I didn't come here to make friends.
No way, man.
Aragon responded on the same evening, or the same morning, I should say, March 9th, 2012, 2:28 in the morning. So a few minutes after he said nice, they said, then don't go to that church. Find another. Not all churches are all prosperity doctrine or money seeking or crowd pleasing, but know this. Churches do need money. They're not self-funding. There's a staff to pay for. As for abusing the scriptures, make sure you're in the right and not just bucking God's rider. Just because you don't like the message doesn't mean it is wrong. Study and know the scripture yourself. Read extensively what the theologians have written on every verse. Get a few different commentaries and pray on it. No preacher will ever get it 100%, but you should make sure you're under one that doesn't preach complete heresy.
That's right. That's what we're looking for.
And then finally, this comment is from a commenter. This is an all-timer comment from top to bottom. Okay?
All right, I'm ready.
This comment was from March 17th, 2009 at 1:13 in the morning.
Been up.
The comment is, I agree with this song. I am Christian and I don't go to church because I think it is a pain to get up in the morning. Awesome. Amazing.
Amazing.
Now, here it is. This is the one that kicks it through the uprights and takes it to an all-timer. The commenter's name, Poo My Ass 234.
There they are.
There.
Been waiting for you.
Been waiting for you. Been waiting for you. All right, up next, we have 8 and 9.
All right.
I really only had one note in this song, which is he can't stop himself from being hooky. He can't stop himself.
He cannot stop himself.
Matt, how'd you feel about this one?
You know, I wasn't expecting him to be as yelly. Like, it was very much, he's kind of been a little more subdued. I mean, he's coming. You kind of hinted at it earlier.
Yeah, he's getting more confident.
He's getting more confident. He's getting out there. Vocals are a little bit more front. But this one was more like, hey, I'm talking to you. Jesus loves you. What you gonna do?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, again, he just writes a good song, and the thing is, and we're back in Sully territory, he means it. So whether or not you agree with it or not, there is a level of he cannot care about that.
Right.
He's proclaiming that he has been saved by Christ.
Mm-hmm.
You are, if you have gone through that, then you are changed.
Right.
And therefore, you have new life. So therefore, you're going to talk about it. And here he is doing that. So it's like, okay.
Yeah. He's
like,
doing
I'm
it.
not going to ever be like, if it were Buddhism or another religion that he found himself in and he wrote a record around that, it would also be like, this seems to have helped him.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. 100%. I learned from the comments on songmeanings.com that
Adonai means Lord or God.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Hebrew.
that's right.
Lord of Lords, as it is.
Yeah, and they say the song is about relying on God and how he will come back to make things right in the future, parentheses, the second coming.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bob171 on November 11th, 2008 at 9:55 in the evening said, also how God will come and fight for all of us who have accepted him. I was like, okay, interesting. Then Bob comes back a month later, December 8th, 2008 at 1:46 in the morning and has a postscript and says, it is also that he will make us his soldiers for his war and we will win with flying colors. I've never heard we will win in the war, the second coming with flying colors. I feel like with flying colors is something you say, when you're gonna go to like band camp, you're gonna play like, you're gonna do a band competition. We're win with flying colors, not the second coming battle of Christ versus Satan or whatever. But you know what? That was 1:46 in the morning. Motherfucker, been up.
Been up, dude.
Up. We only have a few more 12-minute songs to go.
Oh, cool.
This next one, you listen. You've been through it. You've been through addiction. You've been through all of the toil and turmoil, but all the peaks of fame, being in a big rock band. You're definitely going to have a song called Money.
It works, though. Like, it works.
It works. It works. It works. And in this one, he's talking to himself. He's being very open, about saying that all you cared about was money and getting high, ignoring your child, letting your, all these things go wrong. Just basically calling himself out, and your God is money, so bow down to it. You act so funny. Just look at yourself. You've lost your family. Your friends all use you. You can't buy happiness, so get down on your knees, bow down. And yeah, he really is just laying into himself here. There's a bow down section of 345 that rips, quite frankly. And yeah, I was just very happy to just hear like him like getting into the ripping, and
Yeah.
and also, I mean, it's honestly not that far removed from Korn, because how many Korn songs are there where Jonathan Davis is just laying into himself in the same
Yeah.
kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
way? So yeah. So once again, I was like, another winner, another winner.
Another winner. Quick cue.
Yeah, Matt.
How respectful of our time is this album?
Well, Matt, when every song is super fucking long, it's not going to be very respectful. It's 64 minutes and 23 seconds.
It's 11 tracks at 64 minutes. That seems to be testing.
It is taking it to the limit. I will let you know that the last song is 9 minutes and 34 seconds, and there is no bonus track. It is straight on 9 minutes and 34 second song.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, but before we get to that, we've got to talk about the song Shake. This was the one song in the album I couldn't abide. This is for one, it's a song about how we've turned our backs on God, so now all the natural disasters that are happening are punishment. I hate that shit. And I hate natural disasters, one.
Right.
Two, I hate,
and you hate that it's true.
and I hate that it's true. I hate that listen, anytime you hear about a tidal wave, it's who was jerking off, who was jerking off. He hates that. Get your hand out of your pants, or he is going to drown a peninsula. All right?
Get with it.
Get with it. All right? Second, all he does the line, "You took my name out of schools." Come on. Come on. Don't like that. This is the one that I was like, I like this weird sitar banjo thing he's doing, but otherwise, I was no bueno on this one. Didn't enjoy content-wise on that. But Matt, if you were to be taken out by a biblical natural disaster, which would you go with?
Oh, jeez Louise. Biblical natural disaster?
Yeah. So we're talking volcanoes, we're talking locusts, we're talking plague, floods. I mean, if you want to get in more, I mean, you could also be turned into a pillar of salt.
Right. I was thinking about, the Lot's wife. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of options there.
Yeah, if you gotta go out, I think you gotta go out and something that's gonna take you out quick, right?
Right. Yeah, you don't want to, honestly, I mean,
I don't want famine. Like,
You don't-
famine is the fucking worst.
get famine out of here. Famine is the worst, man. Thank you for leveling us with that.
Famine, the worst.
No good.
Followed by plague. Plague, also awful.
It's a real neck and neck
Yeah.
plague famine.
That's why you gotta go with flood.
Mm.
Flood is like you drown the few moments before when you have no oxygen in your blood, in your system anymore. It's supposed to be euphoric before you die. Let's just go with flood. Let's just go flood.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would also probably say flood. I think flood would be the way to go. But if I could get into some of that Sodom and Gomorrah party before you take me out of, you know what I'm saying?
You know what I mean?
Know what I
Just turn
mean?
me into the old pillar of salt.
That's right, baby. All right. We're on the last song. It's called Washed by Blood.
All right. He's on one.
Matt, not only is he on one, I'm going to hit you with the origins of this song.
All right.
I was at breakfast with Steve. Steve is a guy who comes up a lot in the book. And out of nowhere, he said, "Bro, isn't it cool that we're washed by blood?" He was talking about the fact that the Bible tells us Jesus' blood is the key to salvation. He paid our punishment when he poured out his blood for our sins on the cross. The Bible calls that being washed by blood. A lot of the book is like this. I responded by telling him that I was really lucky not to be 6 feet under, and then the conversation moved on. After breakfast, Steve dropped me off at my hotel, and suddenly this music came into my head as it had after I had my phone call with Lisa when he came up with Rebel. I heard the drum parts, the guitars, the strings, the chorus, the verse, everything. The song was so catchy that I didn't have to go to my computer. I just knew that I'd remember it when I went to the studio the next day. Again, I didn't even try to write this song. It just came to me. The chorus went like this: washed by blood from deep inside. You're not a prisoner of your old life. Washed by blood, a brand new start. It's time that I rebuild your heart. So I named the song Washed by Blood.
Washed by blood, baby.
There it is. I love that origin. I love these conversations that he's having with people where they're just like, "Isn't it pretty cool? Or washed by blood?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess so." Okay, good breakfast.
Okay, well, there
Yeah.
asked and answered. I
Yes, and then he
guess.
walks out, and then he's like, "Well, I got a whole song." And I love that I got this. I don't need to put this down. I need to write it down. It's like Jay-Z or some shit. I don't need to write this down. Go to the studio tomorrow. Bop, 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 bop. I got it. Done.
Get behind the board. Be good.
And then he was like 9 minutes and 34 seconds. That's how
Right.
long it needs to be.
When you're talking about the Lord, take all the time you want.
That's right. Now, Matt, we have a comment from Bob171. December 9th, 2008, 12:33 a.m. Washed by blood is the only way to be pure again, and only one person's blood, and that blood is Jesus Christ. Accept him, and he paid you sins 2,000 years ago. It's the story you always hear at Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving? Bob?
Bob, you trolling? You trolling, Bob?
What are you talking about? What's going on at Thanksgiving? You're cutting the turkey, and someone's like,
When we cut into this feast, we are reminded by the cleansing blood of Christ, who was getting ready to be born.
I was going to say, this is a ramp up to the baby Jesus. Like, what are they talking about at Easter at your house, Bob? What's going on? Is there a screw?
Oh, well, Easter is when we celebrate when the pilgrims had the blankets.
Landed at Plymouth Rock. That's what we do at Easter. What do you guys do?
Nothing.
Truly nothing. There you have it, guys. There you have it, Matt. It saved me from myself by head. That's the album.
So now it's time to ask, is this ego or is this essential?
Matt, I'm going to start. I'm going to let you know this is a rare. This is both ego and essential. It's both. It's the only way that he could get this shit out of his system. And he is taking no notes. The only notes he's receiving are from above. The great executive producer in the sky. That's the only person he's taking notes from. But at the same time, it's entirely possible you could argue that this album saved his life, thus making it essential. That is where I stand. That is where I stand. It is ego, 100%. But it's selfless also in the way of how he is exposing himself and putting himself out there. And also what it did for him personally feels essential. What do you think, Matt?
You know, before you said that, I was going to say it might be both. Because it certainly is self-serving, let's say. And dare I would say that Head would say that this is Christ-serving. But he's doing it because he feels that the message has fallen unto him, as if God is speaking through him through some of these songs.
Yeah.
So in that way, it is entirely inside of him, let's say that. And some people may call that ego. But in a journey of the musician who is also the person who gives Korn its signature sound through a certain guitar that has, let me check.
How many strings does it?
7.
Oh,
7 strings.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would say that this is very important in the journey of that band as well, because although we have covered the albums that he was missing for, his development during this time has brought to bear the Korn that is today. So without this step, you really don't get the Nothing. You really don't get these later Korn records. You don't get the tours that have him back in the fold and are like awesome,
incredible.
So
yeah,
in that way, it is essential, because if this doesn't happen, if this doesn't get out,
right.
So to your point, it's both which is wild.
It's wild. It's crazy. Yeah, you look at it and say, this is so self-serving in this way, but at the same time, you need it. You need it to get
Yeah.
to the next part of Korn. Yeah, you need it. So,
And you know who's the only person who could make that happen? Our Lord and Savior Jesus
there
Christ.
it
What are
is,
you
baby. There it is.
talking about?
What do you know? Who else can it be?
You said miracles couldn't happen. They happen every day.
Every day. Every day. And another miracle has happened right now as we've reached the end of another episode of Roach Coach.
9 years running.
9 years running, baby.
Running and gunning.
That's all. That's the only way we do it, baby. So there you go. Side Project Summer continues apace. It's going great. Another one to come. I was for a second, I was like, what are we doing next? And I just remembered, oh boy, we got nothing but heaters this summer, Matt. Nothing but heaters. Heaters. So thank you so much for listening. Keep on saying hello to us online. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Blue Sky.
We're on all those.
We're on all of them, baby. Go over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Roach Coach Podcast. Become a patron. The crack is coming. It's going to be incredible. And send us an email, roachcoachpodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, Matt, thank you.
Lauren, thank you.